Alright, everybody. Let's make sure that I've got audio this time. It looks like it, so that's pretty good. Alright, cool. I'm going to stream a little bit of page layout stuff today while also eat a sandwich, because that's what I'm about to do. So if you like your comic book pages with a bit of eating, I got you. Also, I'm going to send this out on a little bit of social media real quick, too, so if you can bear with me being an absolute garbage heap. Alright, so those of you that follow the YouTube channel, I appreciate it. You're getting notifications. I'm going to post this on Twitter right now. So I'm going to post this here. With Alright, I don't have any music going on in the background either, so we should probably fix that. I follow this great channel. For those of you that don't know this about YouTube, if you like to read or do anything that can be kind of meditative, there's like all these channels online where they're just kind of like background ambiance, which I love. And so you know, a lot of like weird oldies or like just rain sounds or whatever. Big fan of that stuff. There's a lot of like sort of spookier stuff too. So like if I'm writing something scary, I can get some like doomier, spookier shit going on, stuff rather. But let's go with a little bit of this jazzy, dark stuff and see if we get any action. All right, let's make sure the audio is going to pick it up here. You know what? You're just going to have to deal with me. I'm not going to fuck with it. I like y'all, and I don't want to keep you waiting too long. So, so today, essentially, we're going to be just working up a script that I got for a project I'm working on. I haven't been doing much work for hire lately, so this was kind of a I guess an opportunity met me just right, because I needed I really wanted the extra work through the slow time. You know, tattooing gets a little bit slower in the winter. Pretty typical. People want to use their extra money to like you know, for gifts and shit, like around the holidays. So like when that time kind of hits, you know, you feel like you know, like you come second tier or whatever. Hey Matt, I guess I don't need to be typing that, I can just talk to you. So yeah, so like when slow time hits, you know, you kind of want to take a few other jobs or whatever. So I've done that, you know, and I got this one from a super talented writer, someone who I think is kind of low-key one of the better sort of dudes operating right now. His name's Chris. I don't want to give away too much because I don't want to, you know, I don't know if I'm supposed to be showing this stuff on the internet or whatever beforehand, before like it comes out, because this is all like, you know, unpublished stuff. So I'm sticking my neck out, but I don't really care. You know, like, get me in trouble, it's fine. I'm not giving away any stories. I don't even know if they're going to say yes to this page, to be honest with you. I'm posting this up on Patreon real quick. got it. And then let's do the... All right, we got it. All right, so ultimately this is an easy page. It's 4 panels, should be a piece of cake. But you know how I function things is that anyone who's familiar with my comic books knows that I try to make the page as much of like an artifact as I can. So on this one, it's a nice 4-panel page of a person driving a car, and they're chewing their fingernails, which is very relatable. Anybody who's ever seen my hands knows that I chew my nails. However, you know, like, it's very specific in terms of what it's kind of asking, like, beat by beat in these 4 panels, which, number one, if you're a scriptwriter and you're working with artists, or you're an artist or whatever, these sort of little things are great. Like, Chris's script, like, is very aware that, like, there's not a lot happening on this page. There's a lot of exposition. So giving us something to grab a hold of, action-wise, even something as simple as how this person's chewing their fingernails is really valuable to the reader. Same goes, like, I would say, like, one of the masters of this is Eduardo Riso. If you've ever read 100 Bullets, like, you could have long pages of people talking, but there's always something super interesting as like a sub-narrative going on, which is amazing. So anyway, so I had this 4 pages. I already started prepping this before I was prepared to go on a stream with you guys, so like forgive me if I'm a little bit ahead of myself, but anyway, here's where we're at. So I took these 4 pages and I thought this chewing the fingernails business was the most interesting element. So I ultimately just decided that that was going to be my point of focus. So I ended up doing a layout where I gave myself like room to really show this. And obviously you can see like I put a couple of macro points in here. So like I would so ultimately, like, this, based on the script I have, is like you're gonna have nail chewing, nail chewing, nail chewing, and particularly little subsets and pieces. They may not all be, but you're gonna see me work it out kind of live here with you. So if I do kind of go quiet periodically, it's not because, you know, it's just because I'm doing a little bit of thinking. So let's take 5, let's drop out the center, and now we've got our layout, right? I was going to do just 4 bing, 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 bing panels, and just kind of, because the page asks for us to slowly zoom in on our character as he chews and picks his teeth. He's not actually chewing his fingernails, he's actually kind of picking his teeth with his fingernails. So forgive me, I was getting a little ahead of myself. But anyway, so first things first, you know, we have a specific car, which is a Chrysler, like a New Yorker. Anyone who's familiar with that car, I used to actually own I believe it was a New Yorker, not a Park Avenue. Whatever the Mercury version was, I believe it was a Mercury. Doesn't matter. I used to own it. It was great. I traded it though for. So it's weird to trade a car, but you know, here we are. So anyway, panel 1, car roaring down the road, doing its thing. Panel 2, we're looking through the windshield at the driver, picking his teeth. Panel 3, closer still, spitting out the whatever he's picked out of his teeth, which is nondescript in the script, right? Like he just, sorry, kind of a nondescript sort of thing. I'm going to close out that so we don't get that again. And then last one, closer still, wiping his nails on the breast of his shirt, having a smirk, talking to himself. So anyway, let's bust out this kind of thing. Ultimately, because it's slowly zooming in, I wanted to kind of use like a rhythm to these 1, 2, 3, 4, and originally I had conceived them as just, you know, like these 4 wide, them being the exact same size, and in this sort of pattern creates an automatic rhythm. I learned this from Dave Lapham from reading Stray Bullets. Anyone who's ever read Stray Bullets knows that like he can reveal something mid-page and it doesn't even affect your reading experience because he's created such a rhythm with his 8-panel grid that he's constructed that you don't ever concern yourself with that. Like page turns, I mean, he still does page turns, but it's not a requirement like it is for a lot of us. So wanted to create that rhythm here, equal passage of time and all that. So we'll just kind of dive in now. So I'm just kind of starting off with like kind of a fatter brush so I don't like overdo my drawing. I just want to kind of get my sort of stuff here. This is probably going to be a short one because like it's an easy page, right? So I want to get like all of the meat of what he wants in these 4 panels I don't always go this route, but I'm going to here, right? I like to usually keep the action moving from left to right. That's generally like good practice, but I don't necessarily think I'm going to do that today. I'm thinking about maybe it's a little bit too low of an angle. So cars are funny because they're just a series of boxes, but there is like kind of a methodology to it that's interesting. So let's try to move the other way with it. I'm gonna kind of just give myself. So for cars, I learned this from a book called I Draw Cars, I believe is what it was called. It was a Kickstarter from a while back, and you know, there's a certain amount that you can like pull from it. There's a certain amount that might elude you, but one of the simplest things that it kind of talks about is the number of wheels between wheels. So essentially you want 5 wheels, right? Like to give you a good distance between your wheels. And then additionally, so here's a couple of rules. I'm going to run down drawing a car with you right now, even though, you know, like there's people that draw better cars. Daniel Warren Johnson, if you don't follow his channel, he's a buddy. He's an amazing car guy. But this, you know, like he's probably got a different system. But anyway, so this is what I got thanks to a car drawing book. So you got 5 wheels, and then your windshield usually comes from the dead center of your front wheel on a 45-degree angle back. So you get your windshield, and then your ass end rides like on the back wheel. So like you could imagine this seat riding on the back wheel in the back seat. Then when it comes to windshield or headlights, split your front half in 2. Do never put your lights below the bottom half. Always put your lights on the top half. And now you have what starts to look like an actual pretty good car, right? Park Avenue, I know it kind of has a pretty hard back end. Like it's not smooth like a lot of sedans now. And this book is kind of set during a time period. So anyway, you know, this major panel, in panel 1 there's like an indication that there's a sign that he's passing that's a little overgrown and all that stuff. Now from the angle I've chosen to draw this car, you can't really put that in there, right? But what I can do, I'm going to put this a little further over. And I'm going to hang it on the 3rd here. Maybe? Nah, I'm going to stay centered. Create a little bit of tension there. All right. So anyway. All right. Oh man, Josh, what's up, dude? Oh, for the define a page turn. So if you read comic books, a page turn is literally when you turn the page. So like you kind of create a mini cliffhanger as you're turning the page. So a lot of times you'll have big events on that left page, like when you flip it over, because you can't see through the page before it. So it's like, oh my. Versus like Lapham, he can just do it mid-page because he's a lunatic and one of the goats or whatever. So I'm thinking instead of having this car driving away from us, because I've kind of done that shot already once this book, I'm gonna rather do. I'm gonna put the sign here. You know what I mean? Like, because I think that's gonna be a little bit more. 50 miles. Josh, good to see you, man. I saw Steve was sports 1-0 Steve. I guess we don't call him that now because he's in a much more relevant modern band. Low Life Steve was sporting a Uzkosh shirt on that last 1-0 reunion show. I was like, there's my guy. So anyway, so we've got our sign. So one of the perks of me kind of complicating these pages is that it kind of gives, weirdly, like I like a more claustrophobic page than I think a lot of people do. I'm going to put a little bit in the foreground here to collapse this so it feels, but now it feels like a back road. Okay, let's not do that. See guys, this is maybe we'll go another car following. There, this feels more like a highway. We'll put some clouds, maybe a little bit of hills in the background, maybe a gas station sign of some sort, maybe a sneaky billboard, something about hell on it being real or whatever. If you're from the Midwest, you know what we're on about. If you're not from the Midwest, then if you ever pass through, you'll see what we're talking about. So we got our sign here. I'm going to black that out. Reflected here. And then, let's see. Next panel. Alright, driving, picking his teeth with his fingernail. That's the move. It's fine with me. So let's kind of zoom in a little bit. Now, each of these is closer and closer and closer, right? So what I'm going to do is, just for my own assistance, so this isn't like a thing that necessarily you have to do, but when you're working digitally, it kind of helps do little things like this, where you can just kind of go, hey, we're closer now. You know what I mean? And at least cheat the framework. And then I can put this sign kind of in the background. Now it's right over top of the existing sign. Do want to kind of like, I do want to move it over a little bit so our head is directly kind of underneath. Let's crop a little bit here at the bottom. I don't want a tangent. A tangent's essentially where two things get like tensely close. So like you would feel like if I got it just low enough, these wheels are riding on the bottom of the panel. You don't want that. It creates a uncomfortable tension and breaks the sort of form of comics in a lot of ways. However, in this instance, we're getting close. I'll tighten it up when it comes to the actual, you know. 1, 2, 3. So when it comes to the actual like finished pencils and stuff, it won't be an issue. So now we see my man with his hand in his mouth. It's going to be real tiny, but that's all you really need for this. And then panel 3, we're going to go closer still. We're going to get a lot closer this time around. This is where I'm just going to have him kind of like looking at his finger. It says he spits out what's in his mouth, so we can kind of do that with one hand on the steering wheel here. For some reason, I do a lot of books with people driving, and I think I like it. I don't have any reason to dislike it, but I feel like it could get boring, but I still manage to find a way to try to make it interesting looking when people are just driving in cars all the time. Let's put a little rearview mirror here. Now, once you get to a certain point, right, like you have to start making choices about what's important on this page, right? And none of this background's important, right? Here it's important because we're establishing the environment. We want to know we're on a highway and all this stuff, right? You can maybe do like a little, I like to have a little foreground all the time because it creates a sense of space. Like see how just like having a big branch in the middle there fills it out pretty good. But as we get closer, I'm way less interested in what's going on out here, and I'm more interested in our guy here in the foreground, or our lead in this particular scene, this character. He's important. So we have him spitting this out, and then here I'm just going to do a macro shot of his fingernails, like almost like a point of view, like we're seeing his point of view, like just his nails, right? Maybe have some gunk on his fingers because he's gonna wipe them off in the next panel. So maybe he'll have a little something on his fingernail, a little bit of goop. Or do we want to put that down there? See, like now I arbitrarily chose having 3 of these insets. Like that was not a choice I made because it needed to be there. I made that aesthetically. Like there was no reason for it beyond like I thought it would make for an interesting page design and interesting to read and create a bounce to the panel, because there's nobody talking on this. It's all radio stuff. Like so we're listening to the radio as we go, and it's all interesting radio stuff. Like this, like I said, the script is lovely. However, I feel like it's my job to kind of like give a little bit of sauce to this thing. So what I'll do is actually take out him spitting, which I think is fun. So my man here is just kind of looking at his fingernails, or looking at his fingers. And then here, this is where we'll have him spit. And we're gonna try a few things here. I still don't love this. So really a lot of this is setting up rhythm. So we're gonna see if we can get him picking his teeth still here. And then him spitting. Because in the script we want to get closer and closer, and it's hard to get all these little details in here. And you know, Chris and I talked a lot about this beforehand, and he's kind of like, hey, like, just make it cool. Like, I just have this stuff to be helpful, and he's been amazing. So I'm excited for you guys to read this one. So we'll have our main character, we'll just call him John Smith for the sake of this conversation. So John is just kind of having a little spit here with, you know, kind of having this thing in his teeth. Trying to like make a face. So if you see me pulling a face right now. Alright. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So this is better. So he's kind of picking his teeth here, spitting it out here, looking at the gunk here. So our final panel will be closer still on our guy. I'm going to move our center over a little bit. If you can't tell, like there's a lot of just like fighting. It's not like hard fighting, it's fighting I like, but so Matt asked what are the differences when drawing let me see this here, it's kind of half blocked. Drawing digital and drawing with traditional materials. Honestly, like I tend to be a lot more dynamic when I draw with traditional materials, but this story doesn't really call for that. Like, it's a much more measured and generally quiet sort of story. So like I don't really need that kind of dynamism. But if I'm doing commissions and stuff, I really prefer to work with I'm gonna give him a little smirk here. Like he likes what he hears on the radio, because he does. He's actually talking to it in this panel. So when I work, like when I'm drawing superheroes or anything that's kind of kinetic and exciting, I tend to prefer traditional materials because there's something about seeing the whole page in front of me and like having it right in front of my face that I really feel like I can deliver something genuinely exciting. And I do struggle with that digitally, and I don't think that's like a universal thing. I think some people are just like, what, man, I can get way more, you know, and it's like, good on you, but it ain't me, you know what I mean? Like I struggle with that. I prefer to work traditionally if I can. I feel like I turn out my better work. The trouble is there's a workflow issue, and so I like this, but he doesn't look like he's driving anymore. He's sitting there. There we go. Alright, I still feel like we're maybe a little too big on him, so let's shrink this down just a little bit. I do like this angle though. But yeah, so with digitally, like when I work digitally, I can kind of like play with the nuance a little more and like not have to worry about tearing up the paper from erasing too many times. And but the kineticism does suffer a little bit. So like if I'm drawing like a cool superhero thing, like even now, like I mean now that I say it, I'll probably do fine because I'm like talking to y'all and not in my head. You know, like that's a fun figure. Pretty bouncy, but if I kind of try to take it to finished, like it tends to lose some of that unless it's like let's make it Wolverine. He's a superhero, right? So anyway, yeah, yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty cool. But generally speaking, I struggle to get like an exciting bouncing figure. So that's a big difference for me. I just proved myself to be an idiot there, so you're welcome. So anyway, this guy's a little older. We're going to give him a few wrinkles. I don't really need to in the layout, but I'm doing it anyway because y'all are here. So, I'm also wondering... I think I just don't like this spitting. I like it in the script. I don't like the way I'm drawing it. I think there's just not enough time for me to... Let's try this. I don't think there's enough time for me to process what he's actually doing. Here, I'm going to just have him holding the little thing he got out of his teeth, like in looking at it. I think that's going to be a better fit, right? So now we're looking at the thing in the problem food or whatever it is. And then we'll have it here, right? He's pinching it. We're getting a look at it. And then here it would be nice if maybe he's... Yeah, I feel like I don't have enough space. Alright, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this shot. Got it, guys. We did it. We solved it. Alright, so we're going to move this back up here. And then we're going to have this, him flicking it, because that'll be fun. Everyone likes to flick stuff. Why am I... Oh, it's because I'm selected. In case you're wondering why it looks like I'm in the Stone Age with my software, it's because I'm literally using CS3, which is like 15 years old at this point. But I don't need anything more, you know, like at least for what I'm doing here. I do use Manga Studio for like doing digital pencils because it's more robust, and I don't have to pay a monthly fee for it. I think if it's on iPad, you have to pay a monthly fee, but I don't have an iPad and I don't use that. So I am going to adjust this here. All right, so I like this structure better. So one of the benefits of, you know, like kind of getting in here and working digitally is that I can kind of move things around like I've moved them around. I don't have to fight them as bad. And I'm probably going to silhouette this, which I don't think I've done. Oh, I did one silhouette this issue. I love a good silhouette. That's a good comics move there. So if I take this hand, and then this panel, we will... I like this face, but sorry, homie. So we're going to have him just have a nice smirk and checking his teeth again with his tongue. So now I have to send this for approval. So I'm just kind of noting here for the editors and for the writer what's going on in this panel because it's a little less detailed. Goop on fingers. Spinach? Like Popeye here. So I'm just making notes for these layouts. I can't spell either, apparently. I was writing flink like it's a Zippo. Flicks the goop. Alright. Sign. Alright, so this is pretty much my layout. And so if we kind of like, then I always have to kind of take stock after I get it done, right? This is kind of what I pictured, something like this. Essentially, you know, just try to like, I'm going to read I'm just going to be silent and just kind of read through it for a second so I can kind of get the rhythm in my mind. Yeah, and that works for me. I quite like that. So that's pretty much it. I know it's a short one today, but this is kind of how I lay out pages, and how I essentially overcomplicate things. You know, we could have had 1, 2, 3, 4 and just been done with it, but I'm an idiot, and I care maybe a little too much about the individual page. Maybe I don't, but I'm very happy. It's normal to send layouts depending on the project. I've never worked with this writer before. This is our first time together, and I've worked with this editor before, but it's also like there's an intermediary. It's not a licensed project, but it functions kind of similarly. So there is an overseer. So I kind of send all this stuff out there because I kind of have to. It would be like if you were doing, you know, like a Ninja Turtles thing. Like there's a lot of, you know, Nickelodeon has to see that or whatever. So you need to provide them something to see, and you don't want to spend a bunch of time making stuff. I would rather send this because I did it in 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever with you guys, than I would rather send something I spent 7 hours on drawing and then saying, hey, is this good? You know, so I'd rather send this than something else. I think most people I work with, I don't send layouts. I just kind of send pencils because we all know each other very, very well. And I think most artists know themselves well enough to know, like, I'm not loving it. I'm not like, I don't know if this is like exactly right, so they will send the layout over to the writer or the editor, whoever they're working with on the project, just to kind of get a second set of eyes. But you can usually tell if that's like a problem before it hits, you know what I mean? Anyway, so that's it. I hope y'all liked it, and you'll see me around again.